Hello and welcome back to Sitting In. Today you're listening to episode 20 and it's nice to be joined by the whole crew for once. I feel like the last few episodes it's been totally sporadic. Would you like to explain yourselves? Jack, where you been?
Me? I've been hiding. I've been trying to come up with content. I've been meditating in the content cave. I think... It's been one of those weeks.
Why is this all so funny? We're keeping this in. Like, we're going now. It's rocking the content cave. Callum, where you been?
It's been everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh man, what? Can't even remember.
It's probably been to B&Q a few times, haven't you? Because you're in a new place now.
yeah. I'm hoping to do that later on in June actually. Do a big trip to B&Q.
That's exciting.
Bro, you need to take a map or something though, because every time I've gone in there, I've gotten lost, and it's just horrible. Like when it's like being. You ever see the bit in Inception where they're like falling through the limbo or something, and then what's happening is the world keeps generating like the same stuff again. That's kind of like what it's like being in B&Q. Like when you get lost and you find yourself in the kitchen area, and you keep running through the kitchen department only to find another kitchen, to find another kitchen, to find another kitchen. That's what it's like.
Are you thinking of IKEA?
No, I'm thinking of Inception.
Because I always thought B&Q was like fairly straightforward to get around.
You've obviously not been to B&Q then. B&Q is I might still be in B&Q. I might still be there. And if I am, the internet's not that bad. Maybe. I mean, IKEA is like that as well, but IKEA is like one big basement.
Yeah.
It's like just getting lost in somebody's like home project that they never really finished. That's what it's like. And then someone tells you, "Oh, just follow the lines in the floor."
Yeah.
That's what everybody is doing. So nobody can see the lines on the floor. So.
Well, it has been a minute since we did an episode together. It's episode number 20. I can't quite believe that we've made it to episode 20 now. Like, it's kind of just flown by. And that means that in total we have like 40 episodes of Sitting In, which is pretty good going. It's not bad for two short seasons. But yeah, I thought it'd be good just to actually catch up. Now, I know that Jack's been in the content cave and Callum doesn't know what he's been doing. But for real, I think we have all been busy doing different things, and it would be good to catch up on that. We don't actually have a question that we're trying to necessarily get into in this episode. We just thought it'd be fun to catch up and see where it goes. So Jack, genuinely, what have you been up to the last couple of weeks? Because we did actually shoot an episode together last week, but before that, we didn't see each other for a bit.
I mean, it's been a lot the same of the old stuff, really. Just kind of continuing on with what I've been doing, just continuing to teach. I mean, to be honest with you, like, it's been a bit funny recently. Like, I've got a residency, a studio kind of session coming up at the end of the month for a few days, and so I've like been, as I mentioned to you in the last episode as well, I've been trying to kind of like just bank sounds that way as well. But I find myself like sort of pushing the boat out and trying things with the pedals that I have that they're just yielding some really odd sounds now. So the other day I was like messing with some gain stacking and just kind of messing with OD pedals, that sort of thing. So I mean, aside from that, that's really kind of what I've been doing. I think there's a couple kind of function gigs on the horizon or whatever, but nothing really too crazy. But yeah, just same old, same grind.
Nice. I actually saw a video on Instagram. I don't know if either of you have noticed someone doing this before, but they made a bridge for the Telecaster out of rubber, and it sounded so cool. Have you ever come across that? Oh, it honestly sounds great. Like I want a rubber bridge now.
Is this like is it like one of those clickbait things where, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, there's a guy who he clickbaits all his videos with like, this guy changed his guitar strings to piano strings and it will blow your mind. You ever seen that?
I mean, that's what YouTube is, right?
Or like there's other ones that's just like, oh, man puts banjo strings on the ukulele. I mean, I did click that one, to be fair, so I suppose it worked.
I've seen the one where someone plugs their guitar into the mains of their house. Have you seen that one?
Are you serious?
It's like a hand built guitar, and he's so confident about how it's going to sound. and I think it's like the European plug socket, so it's the two prongs, and he just plugs it in and then goes to like strum, and he just strums the guitar, and it's just like electricity, and he's like jumps back.
Wait,
There's
so
loads of videos like that, genuinely, like that's actually what he does.
what's the tone like?
You don't hear anything.
Of course,
What
there's
tone?
no speaker. How would he? Why would he think that he could make that happen?
I think he does it like genuinely for like a funny video.
Right, so it's like Jackass.
It kind of like it looks serious. It looks like he's actually trying to do that, but I don't know. It must be like comedic effect. It must be just trying to seem stupid.
Oh, is that so? It's called like tone improvement or something.
It might be. Yeah.
Wow,
You're really thinking about the whole B&Q thing right now, aren't you?
I'm living it, man. I'm living in that world
Are
right
you
now.
in B&Q
Oh, yeah.
right now?
I've told you. I think if someone told me that I was in B&Q right now, I wouldn't question it.
Callum, what have you been up to, man?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Obviously, we've just done like 10 hours of rehearsals over the weekend for Tinderbox, which was super fun, a bit tiring, but yeah, just lots and lots of teaching. 2 gigs that I've been to over the past little while, which is a rare occurrence for myself. I went and seen Rush tribute band playing, called Moving Pictures, and they were really good. It's one of the drummers who was teaching at DC Drum Central music lessons. It was like their first job depping in for the drummer.
Who was playing drums?
Jamie Dunleavy, I believe.
I don't know.
Yeah, she's just a tutor at Drum Central music lessons, and I'm not entirely sure how she got the job, but it was ace. Like it was so good. It was a really, really good gig, and yeah, my dad was the support because it's all my dad's mates, which is kind of cool.
Oh, amazing.
That was a really fun night, and yeah, another gig that I went to see that my mum dragged me along to, and I was very happy that she did, was Gary Newman. That was insane, like the electronic synth pioneer. That was pretty good. So it's been super busy, but there has been the odd time when I've actually went out and enjoyed myself, which is good. So yeah, mixed bag of stuff, lots of stuff going on, and yeah, plenty to look forward to as well.
Sick. Great. Nice. I started a really interesting project the other day. I have a little book for it. And I'm going to be composing a piece of music for an orchestra with young people in the hospital. And so I started that the other day. And that's quite the task. I'm going to have to try and chop up loads of little ideas made on tuned percussion and orchestrate them and make a big piece of music of it. I think that's the most exciting thing that's happened for me. But I'm really looking forward to this big batch of gigs that we got going up until August. So if you're listening to this and it's, well, any time between May and August, you should definitely come and see us play with the Tinderbox Collective. We're playing a bunch of festivals all around Scotland, and we have something exciting happening in August, which I don't think I'm allowed to announce yet. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that. But yeah, that's exciting. You gonna come and see us, Jack?
I mean, if it's near a B&Q near me, then sure, I'll be there.
Nice.
And Q. Yeah.
Has anybody been practicing anything exciting that they want to talk about? I feel like all I've been doing is like preparing for gigs, and Jack and I spoke in the last episode about tone hunting, and I remember going on about how I really wanted this delay pedal and blah 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 blah, and I think I've sort of just said to myself, like, I don't really need that delay pedal, I'll just stick with what I've got.
That sounds like a bad argument to me, and especially for the podcast, I think you should talk yourself back into buying a pedal.
Really?
Personal opinion? Yeah. I mean, we've got enough time. I could talk you into one right now.
What would you talk me into?
I wouldn't talk you into a specific pedal. I would talk you into potentially going and trying more pedals.
Okay.
All right. What do you have right now?
For my delay,
Yeah.
I'm using the TC Nova delay.
Is that your only one?
Nah, I got like 3.
Ah. What are the 3 other ones?
All right, I got a TC Nova delay, as I
Okay.
said. I have the Keeley Caverns, which is reverb and delay, but I can just use the delay for that. And I have the Pictronics Consolator. Now, 2 of them don't have tap tempo. One of them does have tap tempo. The one I'm using right now does have tap tap tempo. It also has presets, which is kind of important for me. And that's partly why I've decided that I don't think I want to go and buy another delay pedal right now, is because, to be honest, I think I can probably get what I need out of that thing. I've just not been using it much. So I'm going to spend the next month or so getting acquainted with that, and maybe that'll fill all my delay needs. But
Well, but if you just stacked all three.
is that what you're going to say, Jack?
I was. Do you know what, Callum? You and
delay
I
sandwich.
we must be in the same B&Q today, because that is dead accurate. We're putting it together.
I mean, that is actually a good point. Like, sometimes it's nice when you stack delays, but I might need a bigger board. And I feel like part of where I'm at right now, and Jack, I think you might feel similarly, is that I don't want to buy a bigger board because I would just fill the space. And right now it's like it's pretty compact. I don't think I could fit anything else in.
Do you know, I was thinking about this problem the other day, because I have the pedal train Nano, and the thing with the Nano is it only fits like maybe like 3 ventruses, so that's like four.
I think you could fit 4 of them on it, no? Because I've got one of them as well.
No, so here's the thing. Thing I realized is I could fit something like 8 or 9 ditto loopers on it, like the small ones. So I had a thought, and tell me if this is crazy, but I actually think it solves 2 issues. So the thing with the pedal train is that it sits on a bit of a plank in a way. If you don't know what they are, you might have to imagine this, because it's too heavy to pick up right now. So it's like it's maybe got like a little plank that it sits on. It's maybe about this thick, maybe, depending. I don't know. And usually what you do is you put like Velcro all across the top of it. So the soft stuff you put across the top of it. What I've realized is for pedals that are like this size, so they're not big. This is like the Ditto Looper. You could literally put this in your wallet. It's really small, almost. Why don't people just put Velcro on the sides of the pedal board and then stick the pedal on the side of it? And then here's the other issue. You've beaten me to this.
I keep my
yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. So, but here's the thing. This is where it gets even more interesting. It solves 2 issues. So one of the problems with it's why you sometimes see people get like, those like foot, they're like banks basically, because if your pedal board is big enough and you can't like reach your foot over and arch your foot into
a switcher.
Yeah, it's a switcher essentially. Well, that's an issue, isn't it? Because it means that you can't actually touch all the pedals that you have on your board, and instead you go through a switcher. Why not? And maybe I'm talking to you, pedal train. Maybe I'm talking to you right now. With these little guys, why don't you make it so that you can stick them on the side, and then all you have to do is tap your foot on the side of the looper, and there you go. It's much easier than trying to reach over the pedal board. And you've still got all your board there.
I think you're maybe onto something. However, I feel like tapping down with your foot like that is so much easier than doing a little side flick thing with a big toe. I don't think I could do that, and I'm quite nimble with my feet. Like,
yeah, I think the force needed.
I'm not accepting that. I think that sounds like you are both not willing to try. I think that's it.
You could fit the Ditto onto the side of that board, surely.
Definitely, yeah, it would fit as well. It would fit.
I think we should start building pedal boards up the way.
Yeah, vertical pedal boards.
Yeah.
But you have to kick, like physically.
Yeah, they're in front of you, and you just kind of like you poke them or knee them, or.
It is a really weird thing. Pedals, like, there's something kind of old school about them in a way. And I know, like, obviously there's the whole kind of like tech world and people who have Kempers and whatever. But there's always something really funny to me that we've never really moved past the fact that all of our sound is in this little box that sits on our board. Like, it's been the same way since the 60s. Like, there's not been a great innovation really to what's the word, to modernize what the pedal board does, if that kind of makes sense. It's it's quite interesting.
I think about one. Sorry, on you go.
No, you go.
I heard of one thing. I think it was a student talking about it, but there's, Reece, you might have seen this as well. But in the same way that you can get some of these amp modelers or like Kempers and things like that, and you can buy like impulse responses and get the sound of, say, whatever Marshall cab mic'd at a specific angle. Supposedly there's something out there that can do that with effects. so that you can
Yeah,
save. You know, maybe it's like, I don't know, that Supro chorus that you've let me borrow, Reese. Like, I just modeled that, and then you put it into, say, like some sort of box, and it's just saved there, and that's the Supro chorus on the box, as opposed to the physical unit.
I'm pretty sure you can do that with the camper.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
That's pretty insane.
Let me put another idea into the fold. What if? All right, I'm sure that this is definitely the case in the UK at least, and it seems to be the case in Birmingham because I see it all the time. You ever go down to the town centre and you just see these guys who have like a bass drum on their back and cymbals in their hands and like a guitar as well somewhere?
One man
And
band.
yeah, and all they do is like they lift their left leg and the cymbal goes, they lift their right leg and the bells go, and then they just have to strum along to the song or whatever. And then they've also got like a kazoo or a harmonica. Why not? If you were, I don't know how you would do this. Maybe this is like a task for Elon Musk, really, because I have no idea how you get this done. But what if you could actually be your own pedal board? So when you're on stage, of course, look, there are obvious drawbacks. Like you can't move around, you can't like turn your head or page turn or whatever. But as you're playing, if you lift up your foot, you get overdrive. If you lift up your other foot, then you get wah wah. Of
All
course,
right, cool. No, I actually I see where you're going. So it's kind of like gestures. Callum and I both have an Apple Watch, and we can set specific gestures to do certain things. I could probably set it in some way that if I quickly do that twice, it phones Callum, for example. You can set those kind of gestures, I guess. And it's funny because what I was thinking about when you started talking about or dreaming up these ideas for pedals is I think it's really funny how we still use those little clicky buttons to push pedals on. It's so old fashioned. And I was thinking, think about a phone screen. It's like it's touch sensitive at this point. And some of them you can even like control with your eyes. That kind of technology's been about for ages. And I mean, it must be totally possible to integrate that level of technology into a pedal. If you look at something like the Neural DSP, the Quad Cortex or something it's called. It's got that really nice LED screen. Now imagine the whole device was an LED screen and you just had to tap, to engage the effect as opposed to doing the clicky little button. Another pet peeve of mine is people who are still releasing pedals without the soft click. Like, I think I have a few. You hear that? There's nothing
bro,
worse
I can hear that all the way from B&Q here. That's really loud.
Seriously, so there's nothing worse than when you're playing a gig and there's a quiet section and you need to change an effect and all you can hear is like...
Well, Gilad Hexelman raised this a few years ago about modding the freeze pedal, the Electro Harmonix freeze pedal, which is a great little pedal. I have one on my board as well. But and I think you bought a modded one, didn't you?
I'm selling a modded one right now.
There you go. Man, we should have an interlude for like a sales pitch right there.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm selling it, Jack, is because the Ventris does all that stuff. It's like there's no use for it now. I guess I could keep it and it'd be even more versatile, but I tell you, it's been so long since I actually used it. I used to play like duo and stuff, and I would use it quite a bit for that, but I've just not done any of that stuff for years, and I don't know. I don't find much use for it now, so that's why I'm selling it. So if anybody is looking for one, give me
different
a call.
now. I think the thing with the Ventris though is it doesn't have the latch setting, so it has like what they call like a long and a short. Is that it or?
No. It has a
Fast
freeze,
and slow.
like a continuous. I don't know what the term would be. The way that I've got some of my effects set up is that, say I've got the whole reverb. If I engage the right button, the option button, it puts another effect over the top of it. However, if I hold that, what it does is it freezes the reverb of whatever I played, and the mix is high enough that it pretty much does what the freeze is doing.
But that's the issue. Is like what you're doing is you are freezing reverb sounds, or like especially on the latch setting as well. All you're really able to do is freeze what's going on with the reverb. Whereas like the nice thing with the freeze is it's like it freezes whatever is already in front of it. So whether that's an overdriven sound or coarse or whatever. So I don't know. I would hold off because there could be scope for think of it more as a sustaining.
You won't change my mind.
I reckon I could.
Nah, and I also think that it depends on your signal chain. With the Because if you think about it, right, if the reverb is at the end of your chain, everything that's going through that is being reverberated unless you had a separate signal path from clean, or say the compressor or whatever, all the way to the back end of the amp. And the way that my pedal board's working, I've got the reverb and the effects loop, so it's at the very end of the chain after the amp. And so every single tone that's going through that, the compression, the delay, that is all being reverberated in that box. So I think that you're partially correct, but I think that it depends on your signal chain for that. Which actually, another kind of note, Cam, I know you mentioned chorus there, and I'm curious, both of you, where would you put chorus in the signal chain? Because for me, it's
Put
like
it back in the box.
I think about like modulation effects. It's like you could put them after the amp, or you could put it like just before the amp, but you can probably get some really wacky tones if you put it at the beginning of the chain as well. Like, has anybody got any preferences?
I usually try and experiment as much as possible, because I think it could come down to like just a different brand of chorus that just sits better like third in the chain after your distortions and your filtering, basically. Like if you've got wahs and stuff, like that stuff's always gonna, for the most part, it's gonna come first. But yeah, somewhere in between, like your distortions, filters, and then your time-based effects, the delays and reverbs, I would usually place it around about there. But, that's if everything is in one chain.
Mm.
If you're able to get that effects loop thing where you can kind of have two separate loops going on, where one bunch of things is not affecting the other, then yeah, probably somewhere at the start of the effects loop, maybe.
Cool.
But it would be
I think
really
it's
good
worth
to see how the
experimenting, right?
chorus- Yeah, it's like it's definitely worth experimenting, and when you know exactly what the chorus does, and then what you can use it for. I think if you have that like understanding of what it's kind of there to do, you can use it for the complete opposite. It's one of those kind of things where it's like if it's thickening up your sound, making it seem like it's maybe there's two instruments. That's a lot of the time why chorus is used. It's like in a mix to kind of thicken things up, give them like what we call like a kind of thicker stereo spread from like left to right. You might think that that's a really good idea if you put that after your reverb. And a lot of people might use, say, another example is I got this from, I've mentioned him before, but Devin Townsend, he likes to put his delays, I think, after the reverb. And I think what happens there, oh no, wait, is that right? I'm forgetting now, but basically, if you have it a certain way, the attack of every delayed note is like, it's just softened. It's softened from the reverb. But
Cool.
if you put it the other way, then it's you get lots of attack from your delay notes, and if you don't like that harsh attack, then you can switch it out basically by just switching the position of the reverb and delay.
It's funny you mentioned that, because in my research of delay pedals, I came across the Walrus Audio well, I don't know what one it is, DS1 or something. It's not DS, DL. Anyway, they have a delay pedal. You'll find it if you search Walrus Audio delay, and it actually has an attack setting where you can choose for the trails of the delay, or I guess the delayed notes, to have more or less attack, and it does almost start sounding like a reverb, like a delay that is reverbed. You know what I mean? You can take
that.
the softness off the high end off the delay trails, which is really nice. And actually, on the topic of modulation, one of my the most important things for me with a delay pedal is that it does have modulation, because I think sometimes it's really nice to have like a super clean digital delay, but particularly when I'm playing lead stuff, I like it to have just a subtle kind of discrepancy in the pitch, or maybe not discrepancy, but like just modulation, like just have it a little bit warbly behind,
like a tape echo kind of thing. I love those ones. They're probably
yeah
favorite kind of delay or echo.
yeah delay. What are you thinking, Jack? Any thoughts on this whole modulation delay world?
I think it all really comes down to like where you're placing it in your signal chain, which I think is what's interesting, and it's also something that's relevant to kind of how I'm messing with things at the moment. It is funny, like the more that you dig into the world of like setting up your board, and the more you realize that there's sort of a quote unquote right way of putting things, together, in that if you don't want to, if you want your sound to be as clean as possible, if you don't want your tone to be sucked or whatever, then do this, this, and this. If you want your reverb to reverberate, etc., then this is it. But I often think as well, it's really funny how yeah, and we do go back to this like argument about delays. You were saying like kind of looking for another delay, but also not looking. We'll convince you by the end of the episode. But this whole thing of like, you can actually find so many new sounds and so many new ideas by just simply like daisy chaining your pedals in a completely different order. You can find some really wacky sounds. Some of them will be horrible, but some of them might in fact kind of just change your approach to playing. And you know, it reminds me, I think I might have mentioned this before a few episodes ago. I was I suppose this is more of again a playing thing, but about maybe a month or a couple months ago, I recorded myself playing a chorus of I think like Moment's Notice or some fast tune, and I was just kind of like sitting playing acoustically on my arch top, just recording it through my phone. And as soon as I put my phone voice memo onto the computer, for some reason there was a malfunction or some kind of corruption in the file. And so the file came back with this really bizarre sound, and it completely killed all of the attack on the recording. So when I heard it back, at first I was like, man, I don't recognize that at all. I can hear it, it's tonal, I know what the tune is, but it doesn't sound like me playing. And it gave me a really fresh perspective for my ideas. And it was a pure accidental thing. And it made me actually, funnily enough, appreciate more elements of my playing just by sort of surprising myself with the sound of it in some ways. So yeah, taking it back to kind of the effects kind of loop and pedal boards and that kind of thing as well. It's like, it is really interesting to just sort of mess around with those things and realize like there's not really a more correct way of doing something. That there's just the kind of way that helps you find a sound that you like. That's it.
Totally. I remember we had a conversation about gear. It was maybe in the first episode when we'd done the Q&A. And I remember Callum just talking about how when he gets a new pedal or a new piece of gear, you just like, you try all the options and you do all the weird stuff. It's like, I think a lot of people, when they get something new, they set everything at 12. And I mean, that they'll maybe just budge a couple of things here and there. But I think there's something to be said about really, really test driving the pedal that you've got. And that's how I feel about this delay pedal right now. It's like I've had it for years, like honestly about 5 years. And it sat in the cupboard for about 3 of those years. And I brought it out and I was like, let me just work on this one for a minute. Because, I can probably get everything I'm looking for out of it, except from the fact that I just got rid of a looper. So now I don't have a looper. And I was sort of thinking, the timeline by Strymon has a looper. That'd be nice. But I'm
guessing, Jack, just as a quick side note, you probably don't need that many time-based effects because the tiles in the B&Q kitchen will do that really well.
Did you just say plant-based effects?
Did I say that?
I couldn't hear. Sorry, the doorbell went as well.
Time-based.
Oh, time-based. Right.
Delays.
Right.
No, the ambience from those B&Q kitchen tiles.
100%, man. You should see the wall of mirrors. You should see the wall of mirrors. You should see the wall of mirrors. It's crazy, yeah.
One thing that I've found more use out of, in fact, two interesting things. First and foremost is, does anybody have an overdrive with a blend knob?
It's not the same as a tone knob, is it?
No, completely different. Blend knob essentially it's like, think about the mix knob on like a reverb. It's like you could have 100% reverb, half
dry
reverb.
or wet.
Yeah, pretty much. But with an overdrive, you could split it so it's like half of it is overdriven, as opposed to the full saturation and it being 100%. I've found a lot of cool sounds playing with that lately. One of my students he gave me the idea of running a stereo rig where 1 amp is overdriven and 1 isn't. I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. And my overdrive pedal has a blend knob, so I've been messing around with like just running it halfway, and yeah, you get some really nice tones. It's cool. Anybody ever tried that?
Never tried that. No. But it sounds like that's that's almost giving the illusion. Your pedal is giving the illusion of stereo because you're splitting the signal in half and affecting one and not affecting the other, which is really cool because that's something you might do if you run stereo.
I guess it's not true stereo.
Maybe I'm making this up. And I seem to be having a lot of real genius ideas today. well, on the cusp of genius. I think some of them might be a bit nonsense. Some. Um, is there a pedal that you could set after your overdrive that would control the amount of dry sound versus wet sound that's coming from it? So say you didn't have a blend knob on a pedal, but you were able to, and I know that you could probably do this by splitting the sound, but is there a pedal that would be able to kind of control that, or does that break the laws of
No, you would
witchcraft?
use I'm pretty sure you would use a line selector, and then you would split. Actually, Leo, the bassist for Tinderbox, that's exactly what he does. He uses a preamp pedal to give him a nice overdriven tone. Then he goes into line selector to get exactly the function that I just described. Now, I'm not entirely sure what comes after that and how that really works. But I think what he's doing is something at the beginning of the chain. Let's just say it's the tuner, and then he'll go into the overdrive or the preamp or whatever it may be. Or no, maybe the line selector would go before that. Yeah, the line selector would go before the overdrive. You'd have one line into overdrive and one line that bypasses it, and that's how you would blend them together. Does that sound? That makes sense in my brain if I draw out a little schematic for it. Does that make sense to you, Callum?
Yeah, that does make sense. I think the difference between what you've just mentioned, which is, I think that's quite a well-used thing, and the thing that Jack's maybe describing is, when you've got the output of a distortion pedal and it goes into something else, and then it's able to take out like a distorted whatever that pedal has done before going into the new one.
All right,
able
so
to take that out and convert it into maybe two pathways or something.
I guess the difference is Jack is describing an effect, whereas I'm describing a utility. The utility being that it's a line selector that we could run both lines at once to get that split. I'd see that as like a utility effect, like a boost, clean boost, or tuner. Whereas you're describing an effect that potentially takes off, or somehow, I don't actually know if there is something that you could do that. I think you'd have to work with a utility function.
You're asking the mythological pedal to go back through the chain to grab your clean sound, only to ask it how much overdrive you want to blend with it, which it doesn't really sound functional.
I have another solution, and it's has anybody ever played a guitar with normal pickups and piezo pickups?
No.
Oh, I really want to try that. That's what Tim Miller uses. That's how he gets that really overdriven but like really clean tone at the same time. And essentially, well, actually, I'm speculating this is what he does. I've heard him talk a lot about these pickups, but I don't know what he's doing right now. But the idea would be that you'd have your normal tone going through. So say you've got your pedal board and it's nice saturated, overdriven, kind of distorted, whatever. And then you have another jack on your guitar for the piezo pickup. And that goes, say, into a line selector maybe at the end, and then that feeds it all into one signal into the amp. That means that you'd be getting the guitar tone as like with all the effects, but then you'd also have another tone coming out of that that's capturing like the acoustic quality of your instrument via the piezo pickups. I think that's how it works. It sounds like so much fun. Like I can imagine just getting lost and blending those sounds together, like, because there's none better, I think, than like the acoustic tone of like a semi-hollow instrument. I say nothing better, but like it's a quality that often gets lost when we record through an amp. It's like how the guitar sounds as it's really resonating, like an archtop, for example. Like if I'm recording an archtop, I will mic up the guitar like an acoustic guitar, but I'll also mic up the amp. And you get this really nice blend. And I guess that's what piezo pickups, to some extent, allow you to do.
It's like I noticed when Chico Pinheiro plays as well. He's an incredible player as well. He mics. It's a very strange looking thing, but it's like a mic that sits on the top of the guitar and it bends over to, but over the bridge. So you don't see him playing past the 15th fret basically much, but what you hear is this really clear, I suppose it's his picking clarity is the thing that comes through on his recordings, and it sounds really, 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 really bright. It's really interesting to hear, I suppose, as well, because like just sort of is the tradition for a lot of jazz guitarists to just take their tone knobs and just roll it off. But yeah, there's something kind of nice about being able to control that blend through a different way as well. So it's
You should try this, Jack, right? Get the arch top and that mic you're speaking through, mic it up around just, I don't know, a couple inches back from the 12th fret or something like that. Just get a basic sound. But then also record DI, like however you normally record. I'm assuming you record DI quite a lot, like into the box, yeah? And try blending an overdriven tone with the sound of the mic up to the guitar. You get some cool sounds. I love that. It's impractical. Like I'm not gonna take a mic to a gig and it'd be kind of nightmare.
It is interesting. It makes me think of like there are some people who like their biggest fight is taking their gear to the gig. And like I suppose it's sort of a privilege in a way, in that there are not many musicians who can truly do that. Like the one I'm thinking of in particular is Eric Johnson, and Eric Johnson of like 20 years ago, Eric Johnson, when he was very unrelenting in what he wanted to use to build his tone. So he'd like, I know he used a lot of kind of old tech, big box looking things. And there's an interview with his guitar tech. It's maybe like 10 years old on YouTube somewhere. And he's talking about like just the amount of stuff that you have to bring in so that he can get this sound. And I'm sure he's slimmed that down in recent years. But yeah, it does make you realize, man, sometimes it's like the battle is actually just moving your stuff.
Yeah, but then you look at the drummer and you're like, well, at least I don't have to deal with that.
They're
Like,
different though. They're like they just have pots and pans to bring, man. Like imagine having to bring like the Starship Enterprise and the guy who runs the Starship Enterprise to work it. It's
Yeah.
like you ever seen how they start up CERN in Switzerland, the Big Hadron Collider? They actually borrowed the Hadron Collider from Eric Johnson's board.
I was thinking about this, just not that at all. I was thinking about gear and like how heavy and annoying it can be sometimes. My pedal board seemed to have gotten heavier lately, and I was whinging about it yesterday. But then I looked at the drummer and he was just packing up a whole drum kit, and I was like, you know what? It's all right. Like, it's really not bad. And I'm kind of lucky that because I play DI thanks to the Iridium, I don't need to have an amp with me. And so it's like, it's cool, man. You know, I can run about the streets with my gear, and it's not that bad, you know. But having an amp is like another issue. Have you ever used what do you call them? We call them like a granny cart. You know, like those things that they use at shops to like carry. What do you call them? A cart or something like that.
You wouldn't catch me dead with one of those. You wouldn't catch me dead with one. Nah. I'll break my shoulders just taking that Supro up and down the stairs. Like, no carts for me.
Nah,
No,
I actually thought about getting
them, to be
one.
fair. They are pretty useful things as well. But you know, then you think about like, imagine being a orchestral flute player or piccolo player. You can just put your instrument in your pocket and go home.
I know. They have it lucky.
Put it up your sleeve.
Tell you who's got it better. Tell you who always gets it better. Singers. You just show up. You got a voice. They don't even bring their own mic most of the time. Just like, give me your SM58, bro. I'll sing for you. Whereas we show up and it's like, I'm not using your stinky guitar. This is mine. If I was a singer, I would have a mic with my name engraved on the side of it. It'd be a 57 or a 58. It'd be something boring.
I can imagine
It'd
what
be
that
my
mic
one.
would look like as well. Like you
Yeah.
would get it gold crusted with like diamonds on the side of it. Just, you know, real nonsense, but it would be yours. So
What are you trying to say, bro? Real nonsense. Well, anybody else got something to talk about?
I suppose I can't really complain too much. I show up with some paper and a music stand. That's basically.
Yeah, I guess when you're playing
Keyboard's there
keys,
for me.
like, yeah, you're pretty lucky in this environment. But I know keyboard players who have to lug around sometimes 2 keyboards at a time, and
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Man.
Bro.
yeah. I'm
This
not there
reminds
yet.
me-
I am not there yet.
this reminds me of this really weird I went to a gig a number of years ago when I was down in London, and I'm not going to bait out who this was because I've subsequently come to find out what their name was. And it was a jam night in somewhere in Southeast London. And I went out to this gig, and I actually didn't go to play. Like, I was coming back from somewhere, and I stopped in because my friend was part of the house band. So I thought, oh, stop in, have a pint, and then go home. So I come in, and they're like, oh, the house band has just ended. So I was like, great. That's not really what I was planning to do. Anyway, I thought, I'll stick around anyway. And they said, oh, we're opening up a jam. I kid you not, right? So this jam starts, and like a couple guys get on stage and whatever. And then as the night goes on, this guy gets onto stage, and he plays guitar, but he takes out this board from his backpack, and he spends about 15 minutes setting up, and the band just start playing. They're just like, well, we're not going to wait around for you to find a patch cable, or we're not going to wait for you. So they're just playing, and they get to the end of the song, and he's still tuning up. So like, there's a switch around, and people change seats. A new piano player comes up, a new drummer takes the kit, and this guy is finally ready to play. And what's crazy is I don't even remember what was going on in that song. I was just so interested to see that it took this guy 5 or 6 minutes to set up all his gear. I was like, wow, that's bold.
I feel like it's like an unwritten rule that you don't bring pedals to a jam session. Like, you just don't. Unless you can set up in like a second. But even at that, it's like, I don't know. Then other people want to use your board. And if you're too precious over it, then people just think that, I don't know, you've gone to a jam session just to... Like, I'd never bring my setup to a jam. Like, it would be weird. Like, in Edinburgh, it feels like it's unacceptable. Because the person leading the jam would have a pedal board, usually.
Yeah, I mean, there is this thing of like, and I do sort of get it, and it's maybe like sort of Keith Jarrett-y, where you sort of you fall on your sword, or you die on your hill a little too much for whatever it is, your own musical individuality or identity. But like, there is this thing, and I think it was I think I might have heard it from Mike Moreno at some point, where he's like, this is my sound. Like, my instrument is all of these things. It's not just turn up and plug in. And it's like, there is something admirable about taking around your sound and saying like, all of this stuff, it's like, it's carefully curated in a way that I'm not going to turn up and people go, wow, he doesn't really sound great tonight, or he doesn't really sound this or that or the other. So that you always have your sound going. But I sort of agree. Like, there is this thing of like, well, you don't want to just walk around with your entire pedal board and etc. and plug it in and then spend ages sort of warming up. And it's like, well, you're really just here to kind of play a couple songs and get off stage and then get back on. But
yeah, it's an etiquette for jam sessions.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. There's an etiquette for jam sessions, and it's like, don't bring the Boss Metal Zone to the jam. Just don't do it. Unless it's really part of your sound.
Yeah. Well, on that note, etiquette, I think every jam session ends with a stern shake of the hand and a tip of the hat.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Have you changed your mind about the delay pedals yet?
Nah. Nor the phrase, to be honest. Sorry.
That's an episode 21 then, right there.
Well, yes. We are going to be taking a break for a bit, actually. It's worth kind of just noting that. We don't know when we'll be resuming. Hopefully sometime in the future. But yeah, we're going to take a wee break. We've hit 20 episodes. Generally, that's around the time when we all start thinking, let's do something different. So we're going to take a pause for a minute and be back sometime. But it's funny because I guess we're ending the episode now, episode 20, the end of, I guess this is season 2, really. And yeah, I just want to reflect on that for a minute and say that it's been so much fun hanging out with you two and doing something different, because the first season was like completely different from this. And we came up with this idea, sitting in jams. It was really only supposed to be like an in-between. We're only going to do a few episodes and then maybe do one every couple of weeks whilst we continued doing what we've done in season 1. But we all decided that we're having so much fun doing it together like this that we would just keep going. And now we're 20 episodes into this thing that we didn't really mean to get this deep into, which is why I think it's a good time to take a break. But I just want to thank you both for being such a great hang, and anybody who's checked out all the episodes and you've gotten this far, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, does anybody want to say anything else before we wrap it?
I just feel the same. Yeah, it's been a great hang, and also just it's been quite a good habit to build. Just doing these podcasts and getting into conversations and just bouncing off each other. It's been great.
Yeah, and thank you to like the people who have submitted questions for these things as well, because they're often very useful for us, because there are times that like we spend during the week, we don't have time to come up with topics or ideas or that kind of thing, and so the actual engagement of which we have actually seen a fair amount of engagement, which has been really fun and encouraging as well, has been really it's really been great to work off of. So in some ways we can't really do it without without that listenership.
Absolutely. But nevertheless, it is fun to hang with you both. And thank you both for being so generous with your time and knowledge. There's just so much, there's a wealth of stuff for people to learn from these episodes, and it's thanks to your generosity. So thank you both very much. Thank you to the listener. You are all lovely. I hope you've enjoyed having our voices in your ears for the last 45 minutes or so. And we will see you in the next chapter. I don't know what to say. Like, is it new season? I don't know. But we'll see you next time. All right?